When it comes to capturing ideas, ideally, I would capture all the ideas in Notion because I also track all of the content in Notion. Notion is a database software that allows you, in the free version also, to attribute certain attributes to something, an entry. For example, this video is already posted on Instagram, on YouTube, and so on and so forth. This idea is already recorded. So therefore you could record the ideas and then turn them into videos and then just mark the property from to record to recorded. But what I find myself is, instead of using Notion, I use my task manager. And the big reason is because Notion is slow. And this means also I cannot have two windows of Notion on at the same time, open at the same time, which I would need. But instead I use my task manager and I just use a task list in my task manager that then is specifically either for short ideas or for long ideas. I could also sort the length of the ideas after I have the idea, because sometimes it turns out something you wanted to produce as a short, like this video just here, I actually wanted to record a short, but I talked too long, therefore this is now a longer video, turns out to be actually better as a longer format. Of course, you could still then, if you have recorded the longer format, condense it down into maybe a shorter version, because once you know all the bigger steps, then you can see, because you now have the ability maybe, which of these bigger steps would maybe be relevant and could therefore again be turned into a short idea. What I define as a short idea is usually something that can be recorded or said, so in audio or video, or also spoken to another person in 60 seconds or less, because this is just how all the platforms define shorts these days. And what is a long idea then? It's everything up from 1 minute theoretically. But what I find myself using is that I do want to have a good distinction between those two. Because if I have a video that is like 1 minute and 4 seconds, then it's just in between this space. Because it is much more a short than it is a long version, and that I would then release, for example, weekly on YouTube. And it's not just because I couldn't finish something in 1 minute does not necessarily mean that is then a good long video. Now, what this means, I think, is that you should have some kind of distinction. For me, the distinction is as follows: from 0 to 1 minute, it's a short video, and then I start again from 2 minutes. So in between, I just delete everything. I just either try to then turn it into a long video, or I try to turn it or I just record it again and try to turn it into a short video. What also is a threshold, again, I have in my mind, because the 2 minute threshold is something that doesn't quite work out that well, because the distinction is still too wide, you could say. I need a narrower distinction of the two different formats, a bigger distinction, you could also say. So actually, for longer videos, the actual threshold is, or at least what I try to aim at, was 5 minutes historically. What I then realized is that I sometimes just needed the 2 minutes, because I also record music and I just cannot extend something sometimes to 5 minutes, because either of the text or the melody and so on and so forth. So I decided the universal distinction would be from 0 to 1 minute short, from 2 to anything else long. What this also means is, if you write these things down, of course, then this equates to a certain amount of characters and words. And for this reason, you can also distinct longer content. So this short and long form does not longer content, but text-based content, visual-based content. So this means you can also say a tweet is usually something that can be said in 0 to 1 minute if you actually spoke it out. So you can just assume the average of 250 words per minute to then turn this distinction we have in terms of time length into a character-based or text-based or word-based distinction. And for this reason, I now then have basically the short ideas, which I usually post just to Twitter. If it's a little bit longer, then I post it. I do have kind of a medium format, which I currently use Instagram and Facebook for, and then the long format is just a blog post. But since I think writing blog posts is not that useful, because it reaches far less people, I do think it doesn't make that much sense to invest my time into writing blog posts if I, to some extent at least, or let's say to maybe 60, or let's just say I can, if I have a blog post, if this is what a blog post could be, then I could potentially reach at least 50%, I guess, of the output, not the output, but approximating the idea and trying to properly put it into language and presenting it properly. I can at least to 50% approximate this. But what a blog post would need is probably more like 5 times of what I would need if I just recorded this idea with me talking. And for this reason, I currently have decreased the amount of time I schedule for blog posts, which is just now for tweets and Instagram posts, which I then again in return could use in order to have short or longer ideas. So basically, if I get rid of the blog posts altogether, then the tweets would be the short form version that I can usually speak in maybe 1 to 50 seconds or 30 seconds, depending on the length, of course. And the longer version then would be the Instagram and Facebook tweets, not tweets, but posts.